right now we've got in our studio from the United Way a couple of the movers and shakers of our local United Way, Matt, Lynn, and Chris Sargent. Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Good morning.
It's always great to have you here. And United Way campaign, right? Not too far off, right?
Yeah, already going.
Yeah, it kind of is always going, really. But, you guys have sort of, I think, taken a little extra time recently to kind of point out the work that you're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, because, it's like United Way rolls around, hey, it's time to give to the United Way. And say, yeah, I know, they do some good stuff. But I think you've decided, let's make sure everybody knows not only what we're doing, but why we're doing it and how we're going about it. And it's not really, well, tell me if I'm wrong here. It strikes me after looking over the material that you're not trying to treat symptoms anymore. You're trying to look more long-term and try to bolster our community from that point of view. Am I right?
Yeah, you're right on, Tim. I think for us, it is about looking at the long term, but it's also about making sure that it feels like change every day in the lives of vulnerable children and families in our community. Everything we're going to talk about this morning can be seen at changethestory.org. That's the place where you can find out exactly where does my investment in United Way go, and everything that we're doing is driving impact in the community, positive change, positive impact, making sure that all kids graduate from high school, making sure that all babies can celebrate their first birthday, that everybody has a good paying job, and that everybody has food and a home. Those are the big vision things that we're working on at United Way.
So, all right. So, infant and infant health,
yep,
and combating the infant mortality problem, making sure that everybody has enough food to eat, making sure they have a career and a job opportunity. What was the other one?
Making sure they have a home.
A home, obviously. Sure.
Yeah, all the things that a lot of us appreciate and are fortunate to have. United Way is about driving that in partnership with 70 nonprofit organizations across the region, other funders, companies, individuals giving of their time and their investment. I think a lot of times people think about United Way just as a fundraiser. And don't worry, we're going to raise over $10 million this year in the region to be able to support the programs that drive, the outcomes that we're trying to achieve. But we're also really trying to engage people in meaningful ways as a volunteer, coming to events like our pop-up giving where they can, see, touch, and feel exactly what we do on a daily basis.
Now, United Way, is the agency here is Kalamazoo and Battle Creek as a region, correct?
Yep.
But what I was noticing in the report is, it spells it out exactly. Here's what we're doing in Kalamazoo. Here are the organizations in Battle Creek that are benefiting. And then, you could even break it down further below that and see how those organizations are actually using the funding to reach these goals that you're talking about.
Yeah, for us, it's a lot about transparency. We don't want to define how people think about community because somebody might think about community as Battle Creek. They might think about it as Kalamazoo, or they might think about it as the broader region. I grew up in Michigan. I'm a Michigander. That's how I define community. So it's different for everybody, but we want to be really transparent about that. I am proud to say we are the 7th year in a row of 4-star rated, which is the top rating that Charity Navigator gives out, which is an independent evaluator of all nonprofits in the U.S. We're one of only 3% of nonprofits that can say that.
And I think every nonprofit has this fear that some unscrupulous nonprofit's going to get some bad press, and then it's going to hurt every nonprofit. Because then all of a sudden you hear these unfair generalizations. 90% of all the money you give goes to the fat cats that work there, like Chris Sargent.
Right. I do need to lose a few pounds, to be fair, Tim.
But you wouldn't get that rating if any of that were even remotely true.
Yeah, because they really measure us on effectiveness, administrative overhead, ability to drive impact, all the things that matter to our donors and investors, quite honestly. And our administrative percentage is right at about 15%, which we're very proud of and would put up against any nonprofit organization in terms of that return on investment.
Right. They say you got to spend money to make money. It's true in a nonprofit too. You can't run it so lean that you don't have people to do the work.
Because our nonprofits count on us, and ultimately the clients and customers that they serve count on us to effectively raise dollars. And over 5,000 volunteers every year and tens of thousands of volunteer hours. That's what makes all of this work together in partnership.
So how do you arrive at what the main goals are? Who decides that? And then following up on that, who then allocates who's going to get funded and who's not? And how do agencies and groups that want funding, how do they go about getting it? How do they get your attention? So there's a lot of questions there.
There are a lot of questions. Well, the first one you asked in terms of setting goals, that was done by a rigorous process where we used a combination of both data and information about what are some of the most critical issues facing our region and families within our region. A lot of research around the country in terms of what other United Ways and other philanthropic organizations we're focused on, but also spending time in the community, listening to people, asking the question, what are the most pressing issues in your life? And taking that information all together to begin to formulate how do we start looking at what are critical goals that we could get at. From there, also working with volunteers in the community. You asked about how do we look at our process. So it's a combination of both our staff knowledge and expertise on what we know are not only the goals, but also what organizations are working hard to make impact, and then working with volunteers. We have a little over 100 volunteers at various levels who help to support our process and make decisions about where money goes into the community. So it's a combined effort. And then nonprofits, we're constantly working within the network and within the sector to identify what organizations are working best within those spaces where we know we have not only goals, but also strategies for change. And that's a big thing to mark, is that it's not just about putting out headline goals to say over the next 10 or 15 years, this is what we want to move, but it's also saying what are those strategies, those key action points and work that are going to get us there.
So I'm sure that the big players like the Kellogg Foundation, they have a lot of input, but it sounds to me like just the volunteer on the street who has a great success story. Wow, this organization, you won't believe what they did for this family, and I've seen it now grow, and really make a difference. So those kind of things are all taken into account.
Absolutely. Community voice is very important. Not just to us, but to the entire sector, making sure that we're also paying attention to what the client experience is. And they're there to tell us, what things are working well, what's not working well, where do we need to find improvement, because they're the ones that are the recipients of that support service.
How many recipients are we talking about? I mean, in terms of how it affects the lives of people, I mean, that'd be impossible to figure out and be thousands. But I mean, just like groups, like neighborhood groups or soup kitchens or job training program. How many entities in Calhoun County and Battle Creek area is the United Way serving?
Well, I think statistically, while it's hard to be able to get to head count individually, we know that according to our Alice report, Alice, we've come in and talked about that before, are those households that financially struggle. And that includes those that are in poverty, plus also those that are working, but just aren't making enough money to make ends meet. So we know in Michigan, along with our region, that accounts for about 40% of our households. So 4 out of every 10 households may financially struggle and may find themselves at any point in time in need of any of the support services that we support as United Way. So that accounts for, like Chris said, the over 70 different agencies and well over 120, 130 different programs we support.
So over 70 different agencies. How many of those in Calhoun County that benefit from United Way funding?
Yeah, just about half.
So, okay. And who are some of them? Can you give us some examples? I know we can go and delve into the report and we can actually see the exact amounts and stuff, but I mean, just so people have an idea, what are some of the agencies here in Calhoun County benefiting from United Way?
Yeah, the one thing I'd highlight again is on changethestory.org, there's a list of all the partners. You take an organization like the Food Bank that's been a critical partner for decades for us that we invest in because they also help the local neighborhood food pantries. They help the after-school programs that feed kids, and they provide really a core system of where resources can come in and leverage every dollar, 7 meals in a community. So it's organizations like the food bank. It's organizations that we work with in education, like either districts or after-school programs. Second Harvest is an example, and places like that. And
absolutely, Michigan Works, is a great partner when it comes to looking at workforce development and workforce support. Organizations like a Summit Point, when it comes to housing, or the Share Center, for example. You had mentioned some of the school districts, but also when we talk about some of our local healthcare institutions, Bronson is another one of those that helps when we talk about Grace Health, when we talk about infant mortality, and so forth. So a wide cadre of organizations.
Yep, and when you start to hear names like that, then it rings a chord. Oh, yeah, my neighbor went there and got help. Or, oh, yeah, my cousins worked there and has told me great stories. And all of a sudden now it becomes a community, and we realize, wow, where would our community be without these various agencies and organizations? We'd be in dire straits.
Yeah, we'd be figuring out how to support them, because a lot of their core support actually comes from United Way. So when people give to United Way, we're not just about funding an individual program and organization. We're about funding a number of different ones to really address the root cause of the issues that we're trying to face. Sometimes I think people say, well, why don't I just give directly to one of those nonprofits? And my question would be, well, who would you give to solve hunger? Who would you give to solve homelessness? Who would you give to solve infant mortality? And the simple answer is there's not just one organization. There's dozens of organizations that we have to give to and support, numbers of community organizations and people coming together. And that's why you give to United Way, because we bring all of those partners together to address those issues.
And we're talking United Way. Matt Lynn and Chris Sargent from our United Way are our guests this morning. It must be tough. I see, I'm looking at Battle Creek, 38 base programs, 23 programs, 35 agencies, $1.4 million in grants. It must be tough. You can't fund everybody. You do your best, but sometimes you have to say no to people, or you have to say, yeah, we got to do less, or we got to do more. I mean, that's got to be a tough part of your job.
It is, because most of the time we're getting double the request for what we have investments to be able to make. And the simple truth is, if we raised more money, we'd be investing in more programs, because there's a lot of good programs out there that we unfortunately don't have the resources to invest in.
Yeah. And again, the website, changethestory.org, you can go there and you can look at the dollars and cents, where it's being allocated. It's very transparent, and that's part of your mission right now. You want to be real upfront and cards on the table. Here's what we're doing. Here's what we could do.
Yeah, and you can download the full impact report there as well, or you can stop in the office and get a really beautiful color version. That report is our first annual comprehensive report on all of our investments around the 4 goal areas of education, income, health, and basic needs, and how we're doing. Because investors of time and money want to know, if I'm going to give you money, if I'm going to give you my time, how are you going to do with that investment? And so that comprehensive report specifically tells people how we're making a difference in the programs that we're investing in. And there's 4 awesome stories that talk about how we're changing people's lives for the better.
Excellent. Before we run out of time, Matt, I know there's an initiative to gather 10,000 books.
That is absolutely correct. We're excited that we are right now in the midst of what we're calling our educational quarter. And on the website, you'll also see where every quarter of the year we're going to highlight one of our 4 impact areas and build awareness, and also some action points where people can get directly involved in the work with United Way. So we're currently, through August 15th, running a book drive. And that book drive has a goal of collecting over 10,000 books across our region, with the purpose of distributing those books to local schools to build their libraries, to preschool programs, but also to after-school programs, all underneath our goal and our strategy to improve reading and literacy rates and literacy proficiency for young children.
So if we drop the books off, you've got folks that'll sort them out and make sure the right books get to the right place.
We absolutely do. People can drop a book off, whether or not it's at the United Way office or through a partnership with Kellogg Community Credit Union. Like I said, now between August 15th, we're asking for either new books or gently used books. We'll take any books, but we specifically want to look at targeting some children's books. Those books will then be sorted and packed by a group of volunteers, and if anyone's interested in volunteering, we have dates on August 17th and August 21st where we'll be going through all of them that have been collected and then distributed. And I would say that we've got some great sponsors as well to help support this. So Town Square Media is one of those sponsors. We've got Kellogg Community Credit Union, CSM Group, Landscape Forums, and Two Men in a Truck have all been gracious sponsors to work with us at United Way to support this effort.
Yep, gonna need those 2 men in a truck. You know, those books are heavy.
Yeah, that's right.
They are.
But if you've just got a few of them and you're looking for a place where you can drop them off here locally, as Matt just told us, all Kellogg Community Credit Union locations, or you can go down to the United Way office at 34 West Jackson, right downtown Battle Creek.
You can, or they can go on Amazon wish list, or they can give through Facebook, or go onto our website as well to find out more information.
Oh, when you say pretty much new books, you mean new?
We want it. If you could get a new one that's wrapped up, absolutely, that would be great. But newer would also be taken as well.
Oh, well, that would be great. Well, you guys keep up the great work. I know we'll have you back in here real soon, as you know, fall is always a big time for our United Way here, and you know, we're glad to have you here. Keep us updated, and glad to see you. You know, not that we needed it, but it doesn't hurt to really show the community, here's what we got, here's what we're doing, and you can see
As
it
donors,
anytime.
we all want it.
Yep. All right. Matt, Lynn, Chris Sargent, United Way. Thanks again.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.